All right, real quick. So we had two more matchups in the Top Minnesota Sports Moments tournament get completed. Keenum to Diggs defeats Richard Park's Game 6 overtime game-winning goal in 2003 by 71%, getting 71% of the vote. And in, frankly, a closer matchup than I thought it would be. Jack Morris's Game 7 performance in 1991 defeated Bruno's Game 7 overtime game-winning / series-winning and career-ending goal, but only getting 62% of the vote, man. 62-38 split for Jack Morris over Bruno's goal. Now, part of that I would assume is, obviously the filter is promoting these, so that's a heavily hockey-biased group, I would assume. So that may skew the outcome a bit. But boy, oh boy, I would have thought that. I mean, to me, Jack Morris' Game 7 was one of the all-time great sports performances ever.
Yeah. And for me, that's a tough matchup for me because, I mean, I'm a baseball guy, so I'm 11 years old sitting in my basement watching Jack Morris throw a gem and like basically fell in love with baseball for the rest of my life and, go on to play in college. But the Bruno goal, too, is probably the reason that I'm a Wild season ticket holder because, that playoff run got me into hockey. I mean, I'm a basketball kid growing up, but that playoff run got me into hockey. So that was a tough matchup for me, but I would have picked Jack Morris. I think that maybe that Bruno matchup, we undersold it, or that Bruno goal, just because I think that run was pretty magical run by that team, and everybody remembers the Bruno goal from then,
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so we had Lonnie and I previewed two matchups from the bad category, or the bad side of the bracket last week. Any other matchups in the first round, bad or good, that you're particularly excited to see the outcome of?
Run through them for me, will you?
Well, I think the big one is I think the big one on the good side, we've got a couple of interesting ones here. We've got, for example, the 87 Twins World Series, the first World Championship in Minnesota at a pro level since the Minneapolis Lakers, going in the 3 seed going up against in the 14 seed to go for women's hockey 4 national championships in 5 seasons. Now that should be a mismatch, but on the other hand, it's 4 championships in 5. If you just look at it as the accomplishment, then is 1 World Series, 1 championship versus 4 and 5. That's an interesting one. And then
didn't that 4 championship team win like some ungodly number in a row?
Their winning percentage had to be like high 80s, low 90s. It was insane, if not higher.
Well, it was crazy. And I think they had one of the longest winning streaks in college sports history involved in that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to dig all that out when I preview that on Twitter. But yeah, for sure. That's an interesting matchup. And then one other one on from the bad side that we did was, or that we didn't already preview, is the, I would say the Herschel Walker trade in the 5 seed going up against in the 12 seed, the Minneapolis Lakers relocation. And I think the recency bias will probably win out here, but that Lakers team was very strong.
Well, yeah, and you look at you can't say the organization would have stayed what it was, if they had stayed in Minnesota, but you look at what the organization became.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's a bit of a big loss.
Yeah.
But then you also look at the other side of that coin. You got Herschel Walker, and the Cowboys go on to win 3 Super Bowls and have 5 Hall of Famers or something crazy like that come out of that trade. So exactly. That trade set the Vikings back as an organization for some number of seasons. Yeah, no doubt. And I guess before that, the Cowboys weren't a whole lot to me because they were kind of crappy then. And then Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and now I'm playing with them on Tecmo Super Bowl instead of trying to play with the Vikings.
Yeah. So all right, let's jump over to some Minnesota goodbyes here. Tony, why don't you hit me? What do you got?
So my goodbye, and I'm going to call it probably a couple years early, but is to mediocre Gopher football. Mr. Fleck just got a couple solid recruits out of Texas that are really going to help, and I think they're last I looked, they were 18th in the country with this year's class to follow up last year's top 25 class. So Fleck's doing some good things, and I think a couple years, mediocre Gopher football will be a thing of the past.
All right.
Call me crazy, but I'll make the call early.
My Minnesota goodbye is to Team Uruguay in the World Cup. They're in the process of beating Team Russia 2-0, as they say in soccer, approaching the end of the first half. And it looks like Russia have one red card aboard. And it's Minnesota goodbye to Team Uruguay, because if they beat Russia in Russia, all of those players are not surviving. They're all going to be killed. So
they won't be able to get out of Russia. Putin will lock them up.
Exactly. They'll be in the gulag. So I hope it's worth it. But clearly Russia's going to win this World Cup because it's in Russia and because that's what Putin wants. And Ovechkin probably wants it too. So to poke the bear here, no pun intended, is probably a pretty bad idea.
I don't disagree with that. I was in Russia. I was in Russia last summer, and I wasn't poking any bears. I can promise you that.
All right. Well, for Tony and Brandon, this is Nick. Thanks for listening to this and all the episodes of The Fan Show, which you can find at talknorth.com. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you guys again soon.